Hey there, Movie Review Next Door here, and I'm back to the Bond series with Thunderball. This film is from 1965, directed by Terrence Young, and it stars Sean Connery, Claudine Auger, Adolfo Celli, Luciana Paluzzi, and Rick Van Nutter. Now, this film, it's the fourth Bond film. A criminal organization has obtained 2 nuclear bombs and are asking for a £100 million ransom in the form of diamonds in 7 days, or they will use the weapons. The Secret Service sends James Bond to the Bahamas to once again save the world. Now, what are my thoughts on this film? Well, I know that there are some people who think that this is like one of the slowest, or it's one of the lower Sean Connery Bond films. I highly disagree there. I think this is one of his better ones, and I think this blows Goldfinger out of the water. Now, I understand people weren't big fans of what I had to say about Goldfinger. I mean, I think the like ratio has gone up to 40% now, which is better, but it was at 22%, so I can see many people were not happy with my 6 out of 10. Here, this is a 9 out of 10. And I mean that because this film is different in a very interesting way, and it's also... this film does so much. Now, my main issue with the last film was that it felt like a film with maybe 80 minutes worth of story within a 110-minute film. When I say that, I mean it feels like 30 minutes of the film could have been cut out. Not even just cut out, but like condensed, because it felt like things were needlessly convoluted or needlessly over-explained. This film doesn't really do that. It more is like slow-burning tension in this film. And yes, this film is longer. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes. It is the longest Sean Connery Bond film. Trust me, they will get longer once we get to Daniel Craig. But, because Daniel Craig is just so boring, they need extra time. Sorry if you hear a cat, that's the deaf cat. Elfie. But this film, I really like it. I think it does what a Bond film should do. It doesn't like beat around the bush, and it gets to what you want to see in a Bond film. So, let me go into the cast. Sean Connery is James Bond. This film, I do think that there's a bit of a decline in his performance here, because I thought his performance in both From Russia with Love and Goldfinger were great. This film, I'd say he's decent. He's a... Shit, I think he was better in Dr. No. He seems a bit off, and I've heard in interviews that around the time the film came out, around the time Thunderball was being shot, Sean Connery didn't have a lot of privacy in his own home, and especially not on set, where he wasn't really allowed much time to himself, so it kind of turned him off to acting. Thus, he chose to leave the Bond series until they paid him so much that he came back for Diamonds Are Forever when George Lazenby bowed out. So you can kind of see that in this performance. There are moments where he seems like upbeat and jovial and playing the role very well. And then there's moments where he, like the scene between him and Q is a main one where I'm like, he just seems like he wants to punch Desmond Llewellyn in the face. Because, like, Q already as a character is kind of, like, bitchy with Bond, or, like, they have a rapport. But it's usually been kind of playfully bitchy. Or subtly bitchy. This time it's, like, full-on catfight almost. And it's, like... But Q is like, this watch has a built-in Geiger counter, of course. oh no, he says, it's magnetic, of course. And then Bond says, but of course. And they just look at each other and it's quiet. And it's so uncomfortable. But let me move on from that. He's decent in the film. Claudine Auger as Dominique Derval, or Domino. She is the Bond girl of the film, and I think she's one of the better ones of Sean Connery's tenure, because she's not just there to be used. It's a very interesting dynamic she has with Bond and the villain, where she's at first it's kind of a will they won't they, but it's really that the villain basically is keeping her from doing anything and basically making her life hell. And the way the film ends, I thought, was very satisfying. Claudine Auger has a couple moments where she gets to shine acting wise, and a lot of the other Bond actresses don't really get that, and she did a good job here. Not like Oscar worthy material, but still, she did a good job. Adolfo Celli as Emilio Largo. He is the villain. He is a higher ranking member of Spectre. I like him. I like him as a villain. That is something that this film does. This film focuses a lot more on the villains than quite a few other Bond movies, and I thought that was an interesting change of pace. That's also part of why this is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. But yeah, I do find him an interesting villain. I don't remember who dubbed him, because I know that he was dubbed. You can tell during certain scenes. Even main actors were dubbed. It's weird. Luciana Paluzzi as Fiona Volpe. She is the right-hand man, woman, whatever, of Emilia Largo. I liked her. I thought she was fun. She had a nice bit of sass to her, and she had that bite to her that I think really worked for her being a henchwoman. And I liked her. Rick Van Nutter as Felix Leiter. This is possibly the most boring Felix Leiter so far, and I thought Jack Lord was boring in Dr. No. He's basically just there to have Felix Leiter in the film, kind of like he was in Goldfinger. He's very just in the background. He doesn't really do anything important. He's mostly in a helicopter. Rick Van Nutter has, like, no charisma. And now I'm seeing that he wasn't in, like, a ton of huge films. So, I can kind of see why. He's not a great actor. But yeah, that being said, I do really like this film. I think, again, like, one of the things that I really like about it is that it focuses a lot more on the villain. The villain is a lot more built up. You literally, like, have a pretty decently long sequence of the film where it just focuses on him going into work through a secret passageway where he makes it into the Spectre meeting room, and one of the Spectre people is found to be embezzling money from what they're supposed to bring Spectre, and he gets killed. And it's an interesting way to show us more about the villain. And I while this isn't like the best villain or anything, he's still interesting, and I was still interested to know why he was in this business, what he was gonna do, like his plan to, like, steal these nuclear weapons was pretty ballsy. Having to do with plastic surgery to make someone look exactly like someone else. It's pretty ballsy, especially for back then. But it works. It works. Sorry. Another thing this film does that's pretty interesting and new is there are multiple scenes shot underwater. I don't know exactly where these scenes were shot. The film takes place in the Bahamas, I think? Or the Caribbean? I forgot exactly where. But yeah, like, these scenes that are shot underwater are quite breathtaking, and especially back in the day, this was quite a rarity, and it was possibly the first film anybody had seen with actual footage shot underwater of the actors actually performing their own stunts, which I don't think Sean Connery did all of them, but there are many parts where it's clearly him actually underwater. There are some bits of him on a blue screen or green screen or blue screen. Same with other actors, which I will point out was a weird thing to see in the film, and I will also point out cons. But other than that, like, the scenes underwater, the action scenes underwater are pretty awesome, and they're pretty well done. There's some, it's surprisingly violent, actually. Some people get shot and you see like blood coming out of them, and it's like, damn. But yeah, like, it's not a boring film. I've heard people say like, oh god, when it gets to the underwater scenes it gets so boring. I'm sorry, Goldfinger was so much more boring, especially the ending. Like, the ending was so underwhelming. I don't even know how Goldfinger cost $1 million more than From Russia with Love. So much more shit happened in From Russia with Love. And it was a lot more, it was way better paced. Way better, like, better set design even. Like, in Goldfinger, other than like the meeting room or whatever, like, I can't remember much other set design, and like Fort Knox, like, I don't remember much other set design. Here you have some like gorgeous houses, some gorgeous like beach sides, this humongous meeting room that they go into, where M and the General Defense, something like that, they brief all of the double O's, all of the agents together. It's a gorgeous set. It's huge. Ken Adam was so good at doing that shit, like turning a bit of money into a gorgeous set. It was so cool. Oh, I didn't get to the opening titles. I like the title sequence all right. It does feel a bit been there, done that. Wait, well, no. Wait, this is the first one to have the rotoscoped women. Forget what I said. It's the first one to have like the black rotoscoped women with the colored background, and it's diver themed because Thunderball takes place in the water for a lot of it. But yeah, and the song Thunderball by Tom Jones, or sung by Tom Jones, I think lyrics by Don Black. Pretty good song. He gives a very good vocal performance. But yeah, like, this film, it's a good one. It's a really good one. I think a lot of things are on top for him. There are still the errors that come with the Terrence Young directed Bond films, which I will get to with the cons. But yeah, it's just a very well-made spy thriller for the most part. Oh yeah, the score. I keep blanking on this shit. The score by John Barry in this film is way improved from the third, from Goldfinger. I thought the score in Goldfinger was just really poor. Here, it's still bombastic, but I think it holds over motifs from Russia with Love, but in a good way, where, and the scenes that it's used in, it's like mixed differently. It's more like with flutes, it's like flutes instead of horns mostly, and I liked that. I think it's used in some of the more Roger Moore Bond movies too, if I'm not mistaken. But I do like John Barry's score here. And you can hear even there was a rejected song for the film by I forgot if it was Dionne Warwick or Shirley Bassey, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which you hear in the score as if they had Kiss Kiss Bang Bang like officially as the title sequence song. but then they just removed it and replaced it with Tom Jones's song. But still, it gives a nice mix up to the music. It's not just the theme over and over, and I liked that. But yeah, I'll get on to the pros and cons. Pros: Claudine Auger, Adolfo Celli, Luciana Paluzzi. All three do great jobs in the film. I enjoyed the villains and the Bond girl. The setting is very gorgeous. This beautiful island that the film takes place on. The film never stays in one location too long. It goes between them quite often, which is, again, a problem I have with Goldfinger, where most of the film took, not even a little bit, most of the film took place on Goldfinger's ranch, and I thought it got quite boring when it kept staying there, and it was just Bond in the jail cell, and it just felt very, lazy, I guess. But here you go between like Largo's house and this like spa place, or it's like a medical treatment facility Bond is sent to, and you go to this like beautiful like funeral home. Excuse me. And you got the beach, and then you got the hotels and the underground place. Like, there's so many locations. Oh yeah, and the like basically the Mardi Gras of this island is really cool to see. I always like seeing the like custom thing. It gives a real like time travel like oh, look at this place at a certain time kind of feeling. I really liked that. Again, the underwater sequences are very well photographed. They're very beautiful to look at and fun. Some pretty good action there. The score by John Barry is very much improved from Goldfinger. I think, especially for the 2 hour and 10 minute running time, I think the pace has been really vamped up, and I think the pace is a lot better here. The cons: the ending action scene with the boat, where Largo's boat, the Disco Volante, is going out of control. I think that scene could have been done way better. The like back projection in front of the boat looks really bad, because it's just like a boat going slow around these rocks, but it's like sped up, and Connery is clearly like not turning the wheel at all, like the boat is actually going, and it looks really bad. It almost makes me not love the ending sequence of this. There's so much else to love, though. It's not a big deal. There's a scene where Bond tells Domino that Largo killed her brother. It's clear that Connery is on the beach, but then when it cuts to Domino's like close up, there are shots of her clearly on the beach next to him, but then there's close up shots of Domino clearly on a green screen or back projection, whatever you want to call it, and it's still a really good performance from her, but it's clear that it's not her on the beach, and I don't know why they did that. That seemed to happen a couple times for different actors, and I just never thought of why that was happening. Just seemed really weird. Again, Sean Connery is decent here, but I think he could have used... I mean, given what happened, I mean, I can understand him not being a bit disheartened, but it's still his job, and he's still getting paid, so it's kind of unprofessional. Rick Van Nutter, again, as Felix Leiter, a very bland, boring Felix Leiter. For some reason, it didn't feel like Moneypenny got really much to do in this film, and mostly it was just her making a joke about M that was kind of uncomfortable. But I hope. I mean, I don't remember much from the rest of the movies at this moment, but I hope that her character gets more to do. But yeah, other than all those, I still think it's a pretty great Bond film. It's a pretty great spy thriller. It's still a classic to me. And yeah, I think it's better than Goldfinger. I'm not saying you need to feel that way. I'm saying how I feel. There. So, that was my review of Thunderball. If you liked the review, comment, like, subscribe, whatever. And, movie review next door. Out.